welcome everyone to the Friendly Skies podcast. This is Matt, aka Downey Jr., your host and pilot, and I'm with, what should we call you, Phil? Phil Zink, or how should you be referred?
Just Phil.
Phil. Okay, I like it. And then I think LeahSue.
LeahSue, Leah Pia, Princess, whatever you're feeling that day.
I'm probably gonna go by my gamer tag for the most part, but we'll see. So we're streaming on Twitch right now. Not that anyone's watching this. Just this channel just got created yesterday. But we have a couple episodes on YouTube. They're old. Last episode we did was a year ago, so we're kind of doing a reboot, and we're going to try a lot of different things. We're not just doing podcasting. We're going to be doing gameplay streams and to Twitch and YouTube. We're going to be doing reviews, all sorts of different types of videos, even outside of games as well, as we usually talked about in podcast episodes in the past. But today we're going to be reviewing Starfield. This is probably a part one because I'm halfway through the game, I think, or maybe not even. I don't know about Phil or Leah. We'll find out in a second. And some updates. We have a lot of projects going on. One of them is we have the people on this episode. We are working on an RPG, which will probably be done in about 20 years from now. But we are working on it. Phil is in charge of the story. Leah is going to do some artwork. We're going to try to do custom art, and it's going to be kind of an old school RPG. So we'll talk about that in a future episode or show stuff when we have it. I've been just kind of learning some tools for it. RPG Maker being one of them. So anyway, we'll just get started. So the review for Starfield. So I think we should go around to say what everyone's background is, because I know like sometimes people, it's important to know if like where you come from and any biases which always exist. One of my first videos on YouTube and we should probably be in the sky too. You're probably just watching a globe right now. So
where are we flying today?
Yeah. And by the way, in the future, I do want, as a flight simmer, I do want to do more a planned flight. But there's some new bugs I've found out in flight sim, like previous episode. Do you want to pick where we're flying out of?
Let's do McCarran.
McCarran, okay. All right, we're not going to do the whole taxi. This is going to take forever. This episode's going to be 4 hours long. Any particular point? I think we're going to probably take about an hour and a half for the review at most. Usually that's so.
Fly to Bakers or LA.
Yeah, Bakers or LA. Okay. This is the passenger. Even let's just pretend Leah and Phil are in the back there, passengers.
Yeah.
If I was a good programmer, I would make a plug-in to have passengers in this game, Microsoft Flight Simulator. But I'm not, and hopefully someone builds it someday. But okay, so Starfield. So my background on it is one of my first videos on YouTube several years ago was me playing Skyrim for the first time on a TV. I think even with a Steam, with what the old Steam, what was it called? The Steam controller?
Yeah, Steam controller. It had the touchpad.
Yeah, I actually ended up selling it for, I think, the same price, which was very good. I think the person probably buying it was kicking themselves later. But in any case, I love Skyrim. I played Daggerfall, which was, I think, the second game. I never played Arena. Obviously, I played mainly Fallout 3 and 4. I loved all of those games. I mean, Skyrim, I think, was the pinnacle for me, like, in terms of a wow factor.
Wait, I'm sorry, so Skyrim is connected to Starfield?
Not real. The universes, although people could draw some parallels there, they're not really connected. And I mean, we could talk about that later, but, like, Fallout almost was considered to be connected universe, because if you go on planet Earth, spoiler alert, it's completely barren and destroyed in Starfield, and but they said that Fallout would be occurring to just a couple, that the time period did not match up, so it didn't explain, for whatever reason. But it's like Cyberpunk and Witcher. I think if they connected those universes, it would have been really cool. Anyway, I'll stop talking. So that's my background. So Phil, what's your background here?
What
games have you played from Bethesda before?
Right. So I think the first Bethesda game I did play was New Vegas.
Right.
And I didn't even play Fallout 3 first. I played New Vegas, and then I played Skyrim, and then I went back to Fallout 3. And for me, New Vegas was the magnum opum of Bethesda's work. But then again, they didn't even really work on that game. That was Obsidian.
Right.
And that was my favorite Bethesda game.
Obsidian?
Yeah, the Obsidian made New Vegas.
New Vegas, right.
Yeah, that was the best one. Although Skyrim was really good, it's just like the fantasy stuff wasn't as interesting to me as Fallout was.
Right.
Obsidian New Vegas. So why did you like that? Because I might look into it.
The story was really well developed. The writing was amazing compared to Fallout 3. Fallout 3 was really short and it was good. But then New Vegas took the narrative to a whole nother level. Not only that, the map was better. It was set in Vegas. The factions were more interesting to play around with. It was just better, in my opinion.
Interesting. I'll look into it.
Yeah, I highly recommend. It's one of the best RPGs ever made.
Wow, that's saying a lot.
Sorry, some technical difficulties, but while we still talk. There's definitely a lot of bugs, actually, in this latest update of Microsoft Flight Simulator, which is fine, I guess. We're going to make do without it. I have some shortcut keys. So I'm going to I'm obviously going to edit some stuff out, but I'm going to keep the background that we just spoke about with Bethesda, and now we're going to go into our first impressions of Starfield. So, Phil, I'll go to you on the first impressions.
Okay. Well, my first impressions were pretty good. I went into the game thinking, this is a Bethesda game. It's probably going to be pretty good. I thought it was going to be a buggy mess. However, I didn't even encounter that many bugs. It was actually pretty well polished for a game released in 2023.
Right.
Surprisingly. However, as soon as I started playing, I noticed that it was very limited in terms of like exploration and doing certain things. Everything, like, there was so many loading screens that I feel like it kind of hindered the immersiveness of the game. And that was probably my biggest problem with the game, is the loading screens, is that you go from one building to the next, loading screen. You get in your ship, another loading screen, then you get in your ship to fly to a planet, another loading screen. It's just loading screen after loading screen.
Right.
And that's probably the most negative aspect of the game.
Right. Now, before we go into detail there, and by the way, is the game volume right now too loud?
No, it's good.
Okay. I know Leah didn't really play Starfield too much, but Leah, what was your first impression of it?
Well, I played it a little bit. Again, the only reason I stopped is...
And how far did you get?
I don't know.
Did you get outside of the cave?
I believe so, yes. Yes, I was in space. I was like trying to land on a moon, a moon on a planet that I believe was similar or was Earth. So I was on like my third or fourth mission. I had some issue with one, piece of gameplay functionality, I guess, and I just I tend to do that in games. I'm like, oh, I can't figure this out, so I'm just going to stop playing this game, and then I go back and I figure it out in like a second. So I'll probably go figure it out. But
well,
first impressions...
Luckily, landing in Starfield is literally a click of a button, so that's not,
It wasn't that. It wasn't landing. It was like it was like a dock, and I had to dock, and it was like it kept saying, you're doing it wrong, and then I spiraled off. I started spinning.
Yeah, that happened to me. That happened to me, actually.
The docking is one click as well, right? Or no?
Yeah, but the thing is, I went into the game thinking that it was going to be more convoluted. Like, oh, maybe I have to line up and then fly into it. No, you literally just press E and then you hold X.
Right.
It was very easy.
I thought I had to line up.
Yeah,
my problem
I had the
was
same
about
problem
lining up. Oh, because you're telling me I don't have to line up, so
yeah,
I feel like I definitely was doing it wrong.
Yeah, you just press like the target button, which is E. I don't know how your keys are mapped, but for me it's E, and then you hold X to dock, and it just does it for you. You don't even have to be next to it. You can be like 500 meters away from it.
Right.
Yeah. Every time I start a new game, every time I start a new game, it's always really difficult for me because I do take a while to learn all the buttons and everything, and even just going back and forth between games in the night when we're playing, it'll take me a few minutes to adjust. But so I like first impressions, I don't really have a ton because I was focusing so much on trying to figure out how to actually play. But my initial impression was just overall good. I mean, I didn't have any bad. There was nothing glaring red flags to me that was bad. I liked the graphics. I liked the missions I was playing, and it all looked good.
Oh,
so
look
far,
at me
so
with my landing gear still up. That's amazing. See, this is.
Don't give this guy his pilot license in real life.
We're gonna get better at this. This has been last time we did an episode was a year ago. So.
What,
anyway.
really?
Yeah.
So Matt, what were your first impressions of the game?
Oh, I didn't give mine yet, right?
No.
Okay, so so it didn't wow me like Skyrim. You know, in Skyrim when you get through the first part and then the world opens up and you kind of can go anywhere. It didn't give you that open world feeling. It was, you know, maybe we just know what to expect at this point from Bethesda, which is not a bad thing. Not a bad thing. It's just, you know, the innovation. Obviously, you can't really say there's a lot of innovation at the beginning. Maybe there is later on. Like I said, I played, I don't know how many hours, but maybe 20, 30. But I kind of expected. It wasn't a surprise to me that the fast traveling was. You know what? I should really shut up this ATC person. It's driving me nuts. Hold on. Sorry.
I actually turned the audio on the flight sim off because I could hear my voice.
Right. You should. Yes. Yeah. So actually, when I was asking you guys, I guess on that wouldn't make sense because you couldn't really turn it on because you're talking on Twitch. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Let me just turn off some stuff here. Voices. I hope that would fix it. Okay.
There's a lot going on.
Okay. So. Anyway. So. Yeah. The fast traveling was a lot. I could see why they did that, but I think this leads us into the next kind of area where I feel like the scope of the game was so big that you know, you could see there's some mods that just came out that shows that you can actually break free of those restrictions of just like fast traveling here and there. Like, it's possible, but I think for stability and just, you know, consistency, they didn't integrate it. Now, Bethesda is known for modding, so I think they're going to incorporate all that, and I think it's going to be even better. Like with Skyrim Special Edition is, I believe it's one of the collection of the best aggregate of the best mods out there, and they package it in a retail package. But people before that happened, they were modding the game a lot. So, that's my first impression. Then next,
yeah, did you?
Yeah, go ahead.
Did you see how the modding community was upset that they don't want Bethesda to update their game because it'll break all those mods?
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. I think you have to give it some time. Oops, why is that popping up? Yeah, you got to give it some time. I don't know. I guess the question is how far are they going to extend the freedom that some people have been wanting. This is not No Man's Sky. This is not Elite Dangerous. This is definitely not Star Citizen. I mean, Star Citizen, for all of its many, many hilarious bugs, was actually a wow moment. Actually, Phil kind of introduced me to Star Citizen. First time I'm playing it, I'm on Discord with Phil, and I was wowed. Like, everything, like walking out of the hospital because I broke my legs because my my ship catapulted me off the ship 200 feet off the ground. And then knowing that I have to go to the hospital to get surgery to be able to walk faster was crazy to me. I mean, that's a lot of detail. The ship detail in Star Citizen was crazy. I will say that I did think that there was going to be more of a kind of that freedom of flight and taking off and flying around. But you don't even have that in No Man's Sky. No Man's Sky actually does have a pretty restrictive flight model. Elite is the one that doesn't have a very restrictive flight model, but then it suffers by having diversity and custom locations. And No Man's Sky is also pretty much the same. So you have to balance out. In Starfield, everywhere you go, yes, there's procedural parts of it, and there is some repetition, but the focus of Starfield really is the story and the side quest. I mean, that's the bulk of the game. It's not, you don't just go explore, you go explore, but you go explore with the purpose of really hitting all these side quests and missions. It's like, I would align that to like Cyberpunk. Because Cyberpunk, we also thought you could, go into any building. Like, the way that they PR'd and promoted Cyberpunk was, I think, was way worse than Starfield. Starfield, I don't think they did it knowing, like, Cyberpunk, the backlash on Cyberpunk was not only because of the bugs, but because they were really showing a lot of stuff that really gave a different impression of the game. Starfield, yes, if you never played a Bethesda game, you probably were shocked that it had so much fast traveling and everything. But it's not like shocking. I understand why they did that. So we'll go into the next area then. Like, we could categorize, like we could go graphics. Not many, I don't know, people care about that. Like the old school days, like you go into a review magazine and they would give you all the different categories of scoring it. But let's say in terms of a fun factor, I found myself going back to it and not being bored because, again, if you just do the quests and the side quests and you kind of just let yourself explore and do what the game can give you. I haven't done a lot of outpost building. Fallout 4 had some great outpost building, base building. So I think Starfield could surprise us. But Philip, has there anything that... So first of all, for the fun factor, like just practical fun factor and surprises, what did Starfield do for you?
Surprised. Honestly, I wasn't surprised at all. It was, but the game is fun, and what makes the game fun isn't necessarily the combat per se. The side quests are very entertaining. They're very well thought out, well written, and it's just overall really fun to play. However, that was mostly about it. I mean, it's your basic Bethesda game. If you played Fallout 4, it's literally the same game, just reskinned.
Right.
So, I mean, if you liked Fallout 4, then you'll like Starfield. But if you go into the game expecting anything innovative, anything new, you won't really find that. But if you love Bethesda games, then you'll love Starfield. That's what I like to say.
Yeah, I think that's a good take on that. Now, Leah, obviously we know that she hasn't played the game as much, so for a review, her input's going to be less. But is there anything you want to mention about, like, the fun? Well, I guess the same point to you. Fun factor. I'll go graphics next, I guess.
I feel like fun factor for me, and maybe this is the case for a lot of other games, but just how expansive it felt. Like, and I think that's also just me because I haven't played a lot of space games. Just all the different things you can do. That you can go do missions in space, you can do missions on planets, you can do all different types of missions. I agree that the side missions were like, they weren't kind of an afterthought. They felt like a big part of the game, where I feel like other side missions in other games kind of really feel like an afterthought, like it just we need content, let's just get content in there. But it really felt like really well thought out. And honestly, I think that everything you guys are saying is really on point, and it's making me want to go back and play the game more.
Okay.
Back to the graphics thing, though.
Yeah, let's do graphics.
I don't think the game looks that good. I think it looks outdated. And that's the typical Bethesda experience, right? Fallout 4 comes out, the game looks outdated already. Starfield comes out, the game looks outdated. Fallout New Vegas, etc.
Is that
Right.
because of when they? Is that because of like their timeline and like because some of these games they start making them like, how long did this game take from start to finish?
They said 7 years. However, I don't really think that argument is valid because you could look at Cyberpunk and CD Projekt Red's
Right.
game. Cyberpunk was in development for the same amount of time, 7-8 years, and the game looks phenomenal. It looks next gen. It's one of the best looking games ever made, and that
Right.
game, took 7-8 years. But then Starfield comes out, and the game, it doesn't look bad. It just doesn't look 2023.
It looks, yeah, I agree. It looks like an upgrade to Fallout 4, but not by much, because actually Fallout 4 still looks pretty good today. Max it out.
Yeah, it holds up.
I mean,
4K,
I'll play.
yeah.
Yeah, 4K exactly. I played at 2K. Probably a lot of people playing Starfield at 4K, 2K. It looks good. I think some of the general commentary on the graphics were that some locations look great, but then you have certain other locations, and I can attest to this, like the right outside of the lodge, the trees there.
Yes.
They look terrible.
Yeah, the greenery.
The greenery. Yeah.
It looks fucking horrific.
But
not hurt. It just doesn't look.
Yeah, but the personality is good. The personality's there. The ships actually look great. The ship cockpits look great.
Oh yeah, the art style is good.
The art style is
100%.
good. Right.
I think that's the thing too, is like there might be like the details in the graphics, but then there's also like the cohesiveness of the graphics and like the kind of the theme and the like them all together, the vibe. It felt really like colorful but realistic, not like over the top. And but you're right, because I think even in Fallout, like some of the graphics were a little like, especially kind of the background, like the environment graphics, are usually lacking.
Right.
But at the same time, though, like graphics don't mean everything. The most important thing is if it's fun, and I think the game is fun.
Yeah.
Especially the side quests. I think the main story is actually very lacking, and it's not very fun.
Yeah.
But I've done a lot of the side quests, and I'm 40 hours plus in the game.
And without giving away, because I don't want to give too many spoilers out. I mean, I haven't even really gotten that far into the game. It's funny that they did the whole Starborn. I mean, the plot, the way it starts, is very close to Skyrim. Very close to...
Yeah.
Like, all Bethesda games, I guess, all have, a format that it's, like, down to even, like, the story format and everything. It's very, very similar. Although Fallout 4, I was actually pleasantly surprised about. I know a lot of people didn't like the synth plot. I thought it was actually kind of interesting. I don't think you liked it, Phil.
No, that was the worst. That was the worst faction. The what are they called? His dad.
Yeah, they had the Underground
Yeah,
Railroad for the synths.
Yeah, no, Fallout 4. No, the Underground Railroad was different.
But didn't they? They were transporting synths,
Right.
Refugee synths, which I thought was kind of
Right.
ingenious,
Okay. Yeah.
paralleling, obviously what happened with slavery.
Yeah, I did the Brotherhood of Steel one.
Hmm.
That was the faction I joined.
Right, and you could do multiple factions, right? You can join.
Yeah,
multiple
you could join
factions.
multiple. I think you join the Minutemen. Oh my god, I forgot what the little organization of all the synths are called. I forget what that faction is called, but that was the worst faction. But I joined the Brotherhood of Steel. But I think Starfield side quests are much more enjoyable than Fallout 4. So I don't want to give two spoilers, but there's this one quest line where you literally have to fill out a job application. Like you go to this kiosk and you're literally filling out a job application.
That's great.
I don't know why, but it was actually really fun.
Well, because it's fun because it's so different and it's so unexpected, and because there's some games out there where it just feels. I think this is why I fell apart with Diablo a little bit and games like that. Although I am still playing Diablo today, is just the side quests and the main quests themselves feel so repetitive, and it feels so like okay, and you kind of know which version of it you're gonna get for the most part. Like finding something or going and talking to someone or saving someone, but like some of the side quests here sounds like they're actually really interesting and not what would be expected.
Right.
Yeah, like I said, I think the side quests are more interesting than the main quest.
Right.
The
Okay.
main quest line is a lot of go here, do that, and then it's very repetitive.
They should do that more in games. If they made it less repetitive, it would be way more fun.
Yeah, let me ask you this. Is the combat, they actually removed the VAT system in Starfield, which I thought was a very good move.
What's the VAT system?
The VAT system was a turn-based combat system that came from, I think, well, definitely came from Fallout 1 and 2. That was more isometric view, then they kept it in Fallout 3 when it became first-person 3D, and then Fallout 4 still has it, although, I mean, I barely used it in Fallout 4. They even had it in Fallout 76, which we actually played with Leah, and it was, and that would had to be, it was like weird, because it had to be real-time, because it's an MMO, but,
Right.
They took out the VATs, they took out the VAT system, and, you know, Cyberpunk also doesn't have the greatest combat either. I mean, it's not like Doom Eternal or like an actual, like, shooter that focuses on ballistics and all that stuff and gameplay. But I thought the Starfield combat wasn't bad. It was fine. I guess.
It was a step up from Fallout 4, but
It
not
was
by much.
fine.
Right.
I think Cyberpunk's combat was much more enjoyable.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And that's because my problem with Starfield combat is that the melee weapons suck, and there's not very much variety. Especially with the energy weapons. There's only like 2 energy weapons. And I feel like there's ammo for every single type of weapon, which is also very aggravating.
Mhm.
Like I have like 8,000 different types of ammo in my inventory.
Right.
Yeah, that I know what you're talking about there. That is actually really annoying to me too.
That was my biggest problem. But, I mean, the crafting's fine. I don't know if you guys have crafted, but you can, like, mod out your weapons and stuff. But
Yeah, the
there's
crafting...
legendaries, but...
The crafting, it was a little confusing. Like, I wasn't sure what components I had or needed, but I could craft some stuff, and some stuff, obviously, I didn't have the components for. The outpost building was fine. I don't know how deep it goes. You know, that's the thing about this game. I think maybe in scope, people haven't reached that scope where, like, the outpost building... Like, can you attract settlers to the outpost, like in Fallout 4, for example?
I think it's just you hire crew.
You hire crew, right. So, that's the problem, is that the scope could be massive, or it could be fairly big, but then but still limited. So you're like, oh, this is... What I've seen of the outpost building is basically what you get. Like, there's not much beyond it.
Yeah, well, the purpose of it is to build an outpost, and then you hire crew members, and the crew members work on the outpost, and that generates you passive income. That's
Right.
literally the only purpose of the outpost.
Right.
It's kind of like setting up a factory, and
Right.
they're all line workers.
And you get
Working.
passive materials as well.
Yep.
I love how video games are like just like jobs. It's like you have a job.
Yeah, they turned
To
into...
set up a factory, and you have to
We-
make sure all
we-
your workers are happy and make sure they're paid and they're doing their work.
We used to call those time sinks. So, like, when WoW came out, WoW was a time sink. Everyone spent hours upon hours raiding, waiting for a raid. And it was fun, but it was definitely... I think a lot of
It's the
people's...
FOMO.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and then the shipbuilding. And I know Phil was saying, you know, about Star Wars, so I'd like the universe to be closer to Star Wars. And then you see people building ships from Star Wars in this game quite easily,
Yep.
apparently.
So it is connected to Star Wars then.
No, it's not. It's just people have been...
Yeah, people
Very
just like to have
creative.
fun. But
Yeah.
that's another positive of the
Oh.
game. The shipbuilding is very fun, and it's another great part. The only problem that brings it down is that the space, being in space, is not that enjoyable.
Right. It is limited to... You can't... Well, and most space games are like this anyway. You're not really floating around in space. Although, again, Elite, you literally are
Yeah.
in the void of space. But in Starfield, you're basically orbiting around a planet or near a planet. and that's every encounter is near some sort of system, and you're in the vicinity of something that's happening or not, and that's it.
Yeah, I mean, another cool part too is like, I don't know how you guys play the game. I found out that playing the game like like if you're a really nice guy, the game is not very fun. However, if you're like a pirate playing like a dickhead, the game is much more enjoyable because
Why is that?
so basically when you see another ship in orbit, right, you can take their ship, you can attack them, you can board them, kill everyone on the ship, and then take their ship and it's your ship, and then you can sell it if you want. You could add crew members to it. But if you play a nice guy, you can't really do that, so it limits your possibilities of what you can do. Like, it's like basically being nice gives you less content.
Right.
Kind of like life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm becoming cynical in my old age.
Yeah, that's true. I was gonna say, like, you could, and they actually, I read an article that they actually planned for people who murdered all the NPCs. They have backup NPCs, and I think they have backup of backup NPCs as well.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
I like literally don't even know what you're talking about. Someone murdered NPCs? Like, how is that even possible?
Well, you can, like Philip is saying, you can shoot. I mean, I know some games they'll block your gun sight or lower your gun sight if you aim at them, but Phil, you can kill most NPCs, right?
Oh,
Yeah,
I
there's
thought
certain...
I thought you meant that like they were removed from the game or something. That they were like hacked the game. But you're just saying they're killing.
Well,
Yeah, I think
an
there's
NPC
certain
is killed,
quest
they're
givers.
removed.
Yeah, I think there's certain quest givers. Like, if you go to the Vanguard area, the UC area, and you kill a quest giver, another one might step in. So just in case you want to go back and still do that quest, it won't be the same person for your lore perspective, right? Because it'd be weird if you kill the person, then you come back a couple days later, and it's the same guy. It'd be a different guy, but yet he gives the same quest.
Huh. Okay.
And that also there's also another quest line that I wanted to bring up without spoiling. Like, if you commit a crime and then get arrested, there's another quest line where they approach you wanting to go undercover for the government, which is also a very interesting quest.
Oh, that's cool.
That sounds cool.
Yeah, that's very fun.
Yeah, I that's the thing. It's like the content. I mean, I'll be honest. I fast forward a lot of the dialogue, but I think that's in like most games, a lot of the games. But there was one where like you go to the news station and you give them stories of encounters that you encountered, and you could tell them exactly what you saw. And obviously, you could lie about stuff or whatever. I thought that was interesting. I don't know if it leads to anything beyond, you just doing that and that's it. That's the quest. But yeah, the content itself is what's keeping people coming back, irregardless of I wish it was this or that. I think in general, there's enough there. Now, New Game Plus, we can't really speak to that. I don't even want to, postulate on what, how good it is. But to stick back to the core of the game, and the shipbuilding is... I didn't do it yet. So, Phil, did you do it? Because I was going to say, how practical is it? How functional is it? Shipbuilding, like customized ships.
It's pretty easy once you get the hang of it. It's very enjoyable because you can do what you want. You can make a really big ship. You can make a small ship that's fast. You can make a ship that has a bunch of like guns on it, and like that basically shoots for you. Like there's auto cannons where it just shoots for you. It's very, I mean, if you just want to make a cool looking ship, you can.
Right.
It's really fun. I think that's one of the better aspects of. That's the only thing that makes space fun.
Right.
Is the shipbuilding, and then seeing what you can do with it. But,
well, and then I always really enjoy once I figure it out, I always enjoy the navigation and travel, like time travel in space, or especially if it's the light, when you go super fast. I forget what it's called.
Yeah, but that's also the other problem
Warping.
is
Yeah.
there's
Warping,
no
yeah.
just clicking on a screen and pressing land here, and then it does it for you.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think they could probably speed up a lot of the transitions, and I know that they actually added a mod to remove all those transitions, because it does get very repetitive, and I think that's one of the things they're kind of going to get saved by the modding piece of it, because the modding the potential for this game to be incrementally improved, and the fact that hasn't been a complete, it didn't get review bombed, which I was pleasantly surprised because I was thinking it might have. It did start getting a bit review bombed right when people got kind of in the middle of the game and like, is this it? We're talking about the negatives, but if you kind of take this game and use your imagination and you kind of like immerse yourself in it and you just kind of play it, you're a little bit more loose with it. It is very fun. But in terms of the trend of games, like how open-ended and open-world games are, I've actually been surprised that lately, even with all the advancements and stuff, games have been been more and more restrictive. Like, I'll give you an example. Everspace 2, which is an open-world, kind of like Starfield, right? Where you can go anywhere you want. You're in a spaceship. You could buy it, customize your spaceship, go, wherever you want. Was more restrictive than I thought as well. There is no completely open world space game out there.
Right.
Star Citizen could have been it, but how long is that going to take for them to do that if they're still on one system? Unless they have a way to speed that up later on in development. But there is no like exploration open world game. I can't think of one right now. I really can't.
I mean, No Man's Sky is the closest.
No Man's Sky is the closest, but I just wish that. Yeah, No Man's Sky is the closest. Although it's very time consuming to explore. Ironically, in that game, and I visited a couple. Like, I have a lot of hours in No Man's Sky, and I visited a lot of systems. And I'll encounter maybe one or two surprises, like, every once in a blue moon. But nothing that was, like, nothing crazy. And I don't know how much, I guess you need a lot of time to really get that payoff. I'll take it back to Skyrim. I think Skyrim was the game that, when you looked at it, it truly was like, oh wow, I can just go anywhere I want. And that's why that format works so well for Bethesda. Like, that's the best. That's why I'm excited about, not to jump ahead, but Elder Scrolls 6, because that's where they're really going to innovate. That's where people are excited. Starfield is just a solid game that could probably get a lot better with mods. But yeah. Also,
I think Bethesda did that on purpose, though, because Bethesda was in a tough spot, right? Because they released Fallout 4, and then the next game they're going to release is Skyrim. Or not Skyrim, Elder Scrolls. So they had to do something in between.
Right.
And the only thing to do was a new IP, so I think they had to play it safe on purpose.
Right. Yeah. I think it's the reality of game development. I know the pandemic also screwed a lot of people up, screwed everyone up, but definitely screwed up game development. And I think for Starfield to pull off what it did, like,
Yeah.
They didn't get... They pulled it off. I mean, they didn't get to the... They didn't reach the expectations that people might have had about it, but I've heard a lot of conflicting things on, like, people that played through 100 hours of the game, and they said, well, you don't expect much more than what you've seen already, which is fine. So that's why I said this is like a kind of a part one review. But what are you going to say, Leah?
No, I just when I learn about these gaming companies, it's like they don't seem to have the resources or the time, or I don't know, they just seem to always kind of fuck things up, even the good ones. And it's just kind of weird to me. It's like, they definitely do they make a lot of money? I mean, how come these companies, like, seem to be running so poorly?
Well, they're not running poorly. There's a lot of chefs in the kitchen. I mean, Cyberpunk was really, in my opinion, ruined more on the PR side, and probably execs pushing for the release date. That's the problem too, is they push for release date. Cyberpunk really development had kind of rebooted in 2018. So even though the game's been in development for a long time, the core of the game really was done in the last 2 years before it got released. Starfield also. I don't actually. There's not a lot known about the I actually can just assume some of the development kind of restrictions or bandwidth that they had, because you could just tell in the game, like, they could do this, they probably could have done this, but they left it alone there. And then you have games like Skull and Bones, which, I mean, that's from Ubisoft, which is, I don't know. I don't even know what to say on that one. And then you have games like Assassin's Creed, where, you know, I like Assassin's Creed, but I mean, we could do a whole episode on that.
I love Assassin's Creed.
Assassin's Creed is like, it's like I associate to ice cream, like Ubisoft and big companies like EA. You know, I won't even throw in EA there because EA has a lot of other issues, but Ubisoft and like other AAA makers, they make these games where you already know what to expect, and it's kind of like a warm fuzzy blanket. It's like Assassin's Creed especially. Valhalla was like, I knew exactly what to expect. It's a nice game, but it was a little bit like, I wish this was over already.
But there's something to be said for those types of games. Like, I always tell you, we have this discussion a lot about movies and TV show that's like that. Like, they're like games and movies and TV shows that are like ice cream. They're not necessarily like good for you or make you think or make you learn something, but it just feels good and it's entertaining in the moment. And there's something to be said for those things too. Like, we need that too.
Yeah, and I think Starfield is there, but I think Starfield is it is quite different. It's actually quite a departure in terms of, it is in space. Yes, it is sort of like exactly what we all thought, like Fallout in space. I would definitely, I think we were saying that when we saw the early trailers. But so far, I mean, I'd keep playing Starfield and be like, I don't feel like I'm tired playing it. Like, when I'm playing it, I'm like, oh, I'm just playing it just to get through it. I actually, if you just kind of let go, it is enjoyable. And I do want to get to like a rating scale here of what everyone thinks 1 out of 10, and I'll probably put it on the video. Like, we'll put like 7 planes out of 10 or something. I don't know what to do on that because this is the first time we're reviewing a game on the podcast. And I want to do that for Phantom Liberty as well. I want to do a couple other game reviews. I mean, we could do one on Diablo 4. And we're getting close to KLX. Clax. What is it? LAX, right? Lax. I haven't been flying in a while. Phil, what do you think about the graphics of Microsoft Flight Simulator?
I mean, it looks good. It looks all right.
Okay. Is it as immersive as I described?
No, I don't think it looks that immersive.
Let's look at the outside view. What do you think?
Yeah, it looks pretty good.
I mean, does this look like Nevada?
Yeah, it does.
See, I think because I'm less of a gamer than you guys, and I haven't been gaming my whole life. Like, my takes on things are like more pure because you have seen everything so much that you're more critical of these games. But like when I see something like this, or when I see something like Starfield, I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah.
But you guys have seen like every single game in your so you're more, I guess, jaded with it, where you're like, no, this isn't that great compared to other stuff I've seen. So I feel very naive in this conversation.
I think the best looking game I've ever seen was Battlefront 2. Hands down.
Yeah.
I think the Frostbite engine is one of the best looking game engines ever created.
Well, remember when Battlefield 3 was announced?
Dude, that was ahead of its time.
Is Battlefield and Battlefront 2 different games?
Yeah, they're 2 different games, but they use the same game engine. One is Star Wars, and then one is like modern army Call of Duty type shooter.
Yeah, because I always play Battlefield, but I've never played. Oh no, Battlefront. Maybe we.
Yeah, it's a Star Wars. It's a Star Wars game.
Oh shit, maybe we had played that.
Yeah, I think we played it. It's similar to Battlefield. Yeah, that's a good point. Actually, I'm excited. I'm probably gonna download the patch, the 2.0 patch for Cyberpunk. Leah already has it. and play that. Yeah, so let me figure out a landing spot here. I think we're almost there, but if not, we're just gonna land. Probably just land on the road. Next time it'll be better in terms of the flight portion. But they definitely had, it's unfortunate because they actually had, I don't know what they did the last update, but they broke half the game with the last update for this, from Microsoft.
Typical
Flight Simulator.
Microsoft. Typical Microsoft.
I
starts strong.
I have to
and then
censor
it
that
falls
part
apart.
out. I have to. No, I'll keep that part from Philip, and then I'll insert me saying you're wrong, Philip.
That does sound like a Microsoft thing, though. They start strong and then they fall apart like that.
It's true. Look at Halo. Halo is like, oh my god,
Oh,
Halo is so good, and then
let
it
me
just
tell
went
you-
down in the drain.
Yeah, let me tell you something about Halo. I uninstalled Halo. I found that to be the most I played Halo Infinite with Philip, and I know I'm terrible at it, but geez,
You're really bad.
Oh,
dude.
this is something I want to tell Philip about, where do we come from? What is our background? Like, so the only game that I played that was like similar to games we're playing now, because again, I played on my Xbox, I played like arcade games like Geometry Wars, and I played like Simpsons Hit and Run. Like I played child games. And but one of the games that I did play was Halo. And so I played it on my Xbox, and I felt like, oh, I'm a Halo player. And then we came out, and I played all these other PC games that are, way better since then. And so I thought, well, Halo is like my game. I know I like it. So I downloaded it, and I played it, and I freaking hated it. Like, I only liked it back then because I was comparing it to Simpsons Hit and Run.
Right. Yeah.
But now I'm, like, comparing it to every other game that's way better. So I hate it. I didn't like it.
I mean, that's what made Halo back then so good, right? Is because it was ahead of its time for a console game, that is. Like, when I was playing on console, I played both PC and console. And there wasn't many very fun multiplayer console games, and Halo filled that gap. And then when you play it now, it's like, well, I have Tarkov, I have all these other games. It's like, why even play Halo? So I think that's what made Halo fun.
That makes sense. I think at the time that makes sense. That it was probably, that's why I thought it was so amazing. And then now, kind of coming back to it now, it's like not amazing.
Well, from a multiplayer perspective, did you play the single player or just the multiplayer?
I played the campaign and the multiplayer.
Oh, I think the campaign still holds up.
But I think it was just compared to, like all the other games we played, or that I've played in the last 4 years that have been like fucking phenomenal. I was like, okay, Halo's cool, but like, Wildlands, Call of Duty, it's not that different. I mean, there's, so, or even Destiny, I guess, in terms of, but it was just interesting because it's like, when you watch a movie when you're young and you're like, I love that movie, it's my favorite movie ever.
Yeah.
And then you watch it when you're older and you're like, what, this movie sucks.
Yeah, you're like, this isn't the same.
That's what happened to me with Halo.
Yeah, I got that.
all right, so let's go into... I'm going to land on a highway here. I don't know, Philip, if you can identify this highway for us.
I don't even think you're still in Vegas, dude.
Oh, I'm not?
Dude, you've been flying for 20 minutes, bro.
Oh, jeez.
Where are we?
We are near LAX, but...
Yeah, the graphics look really good. The house looks like it's flattened.
Oh, we're going to get real close here.
Actually, it's starting to look a little better. I can see that they, did some 3D effects there.
When you get closer. One time
Well,
he landed in a barn. Right?
Yeah. In previous episodes I've landed on all sorts of places, and we're going to land on the highway here, but I remember one episode we were trying to find Stonehenge, and they didn't actually create the landmark yet, and it was just a bitmap on the ground.
Yeah.
And it was fun. Then they made it 3D. So to your point, yes, a lot of this stuff there's some custom art, and then there's a lot of this is procedural from the from
Google Maps or whatever.
Google Maps.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, I don't know necessarily for Google Maps, but yes.
Bing Maps, whatever the fuck
Bing Maps, whatever they were using. Yeah, probably Bing Maps, I guess, right? So, okay, Philip, while I line up for the landing here, what rating would you give Starfield? And you could break it down, or you can just give us your overall score.
Well, honestly, I've read about this, right? I don't think the 0 to 10 scale works, right?
Okay.
I think the 0 to 10 scale works if you remove 7. I feel like 7 kind of ruins the scale.
What do you mean if you remove 7? What are you talking about?
Because I feel like 7 is kind of that a weird number to rate because like 7's just kind of like in the middle,
Right.
but is it like a high 7, which would be an 8, or like a low 7, which would be a 6?
Right.
I'm
know what
interested that you picked out 7 because I feel like
Because
4 and 3 could be the same story.
yeah, I guess I think 1 through 5 might be a better rating system, but however, that's why I was just gonna give it a 6 out of 10.
6 out of 10.
Yeah, I was gonna give it a 6 out of 10.
Like a low 6 or a high 6?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like a high 6 would be, I don't know,
A 7.
because it's not an 8 out of 10. 7 out of 10 just doesn't make sense, and it's more like a 6.
You can do decimals. You can do like 0.5.
Yeah, it's like a 6.5.
6.5 out of 10. Okay. That's Philip's score. Leah, very uninformed score, but Leah's going to give her initial score.
I'll give it a 7.
Okay. Okay, my score. Let's see here. Sorry, if I'm grunting a lot, it's probably because I have to go to the bathroom. But
I feel like you should have prepared this answer before.
I was thinking about it, but then you're like lowball score, like not lowball scores, but the lower scores makes me like rethink my. I was gonna give it an 8, but I do want to give it I want to give more a granular answer. So I think I'm gonna go 7.5.
I think.
But why is 7 not an 8 though? You see?
Well, because I do agree that it's not an 8. It just doesn't feel like an 8.
I think what helps in the scale is if you say what a 10 would be in your mind. Like on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being name the best game you ever think in 10. You know what I mean?
Best
Like,
RPG.
And that's why it's 7.5.
so that's why it would be a 7.5, and the why it's a 7 for me, because my 10 is like, well, my 10 is probably what it should be. So I'm not going to say what my 10 is, but in comparison to your the best.
All right. Well, that was a great explanation there. All right, so we landed on the highway. Our plane's on fire. The back wheel is broken. But see, this actually looks pretty good, dude. Look at that.
That's all right.
It's all right. Look at him.
I mean, we're about to blow up, but
he's very hard to please. And actually, the car. I feel like they've improved the car. The traffic actually looks. The cars look actually like cars in the game now.
Yeah, it surprisingly looks better than Cyberpunk.
All right, so this is where the music starts to kick on. I'm going to do quite a bit of editing on this episode, as per usual, when we're away for a while. But we'll start thinking about either a review. Gameplay is easier to do because we just go on and we start playing. But we'll start thinking about topics and reviews for the next episode. So I'm going to stop the recording.
You guys are
here.
good critics, like harsh critics, but I mean good critics. That's why I think you're good critics.
Yes, I consider myself the Ebert, and Philip and myself as the Ebert and Siskel of game reviews. That's what we're...
It's Siskel and Ebert. It's not the other way around.
Siskel and Ebert. That's what we're Siskel and Ebert. That's what we're aiming for.
No one says Ebert and Siskel.